Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back to Siraat Al-Ghuraba, Path of the Strangers, the strangest podcast in the dunya. My name is Hudayfa, and I'm joined with my two lovely brothers, Brother Zahid and Brother Abdullah. How are you brothers doing?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, man.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ramadan
Doing good,
Mubarak to
alhamdulillah.
everyone.
Ramadan
Ramadan,
Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak is correct. I think we're on
Ramadan,
what?
Mabruk, Mubarak to everyone.
Mubarak, bro.
Mubarak to everyone, alhamdulillah.
I think we're on day fast number 5. Is that correct? Is that what we just completed?
We completed fast number 5.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, give us a count. Give us a count. No, 6. We
Six days. 6, yeah. We start March 1st.
I should know
So,
that. Man, subhanallah. Oh man,
so
that's almost a weekend.
almost a
Man, come
weekend,
on.
almost a weekend.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, yeah.
How are things going for you guys?
Man,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah, I can't complain. It's
Man,
I think it started off a little bit slow, but we kind of got into the motion of things. For me personally, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was actually recovering from a stomach bug for the first couple of days, and that definitely was a.
Yeah,
I definitely
that's why
didn't.
you've been AFK. I haven't
Yeah,
seen you in like 2 months.
yeah. I haven't seen this guy in a minute. I feel like he's still in Pakistan mentally, but
Yeah,
yeah, it took me a little bit to get into it, and that was
Mm.
kind of a bummer. But alhamdulillah, now it's just trying to focus now, and I think alhamdulillah, I'm feeling the vibes, feeling good. Going to the
alhamdulillah.
masajid. And how about you,
Alhamdulillah.
Udaifa?
Alhamdulillah, things are going well. But speaking of Pakistan, yo, viewers, inshallah, I hope by this time we've released our special Pakistan episode where Brother Zahid was narrating his adventure that he had. So inshallah, if you
Yeah.
haven't yet watched that, hopefully it's out by now. Please do watch it. We'll link it down in the description, or we'll link it in that icon that YouTube allows. Um,
So, you know,
I think
gather.
Abdullah, I think it's actually where Abdullah point with your left hand upwards. Yeah, perfect. I think that okay. That's where the icon will be. I think.
Oh my god, okay.
We're new to this, Shabbat. We're new to this, so inshallah, bear with us. But alhamdulillah, I mean, my Ramadan is going well. I will say my first, like, immediate first reflection was, dude, the fasts are getting shorter. Subhanallah. I mean,
Yes.
man, the June, May, the long days, they're kind of gone.
Was it 2016? That's what everyone's been saying. Those were the trenches, huh? Those were
Those
the
are the days.
No,
Yes, yes.
that was
yeah.
peak Ramadan. That was like summer. Everyone's out all night. Now
Oh
it's like
man, summer,
work.
no work, no
Oh,
commitments.
man.
Oh, that was good days. Alhamdulillah.
It's
Alhamdulillah.
very
But
different now. I feel like with work, trying to balance everything after work, trying to make sure that you literally, if you come home from work, you have like 30 minutes or less before the fast opens. So
yeah.
and
Well,
it's more of a
we
moderate fast. It's more of a chill fast, I
should be
guess.
getting the daylight savings in a couple days though, so that might it'll push an hour. So you have, instead of 30 minutes, you'll have an hour and a half about
Inshallah.
to get the iftar ready. But I mean, how's the what are you guys' suhoor and iftar regimens? What's that like? Give me
You
some.
already know, dude. Like it's the oily food on deck. We got the spring rolls, we got the samosa, we got the dahi bhatre going. Look, dude, it's a traditional thing, at least for us desis. I don't know if I can leave it. I do love it, but I do know it's not good for my health. And I hope I don't gain bad weight during this Ramadan. But we'll see, we'll see.
That's like
Man,
saying, no, that's like saying, I smoke cigarettes, and I hope I don't get any lung problems, but, like, it's just
That's
us.
no, that's crazy. Come on,
but
man.
That's what you said, bro. That's what I heard.
y- y-
Oh,
I tried avoiding it. I tried avoiding the oily foods. Alhamdulillah, I think my sari is like locked down pretty good. Just trying to get
okay.
high protein Greek yogurt, a lot of
Mm,
fruits, trying to
Greek
get
yogurt.
boiled eggs, and if I'm eating bread, it's gonna be a whole wheat bread. Just trying to get a kind of like a,
Mm,
a balanced diet. But
yeah.
I think for iftar, um, look, there was a lot of samosas and stuff that were made in preparation for Ramadan, and I don't want those to go to waste. So that's why I'm kind of doing taking the hit there.
Rose coconut. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Not to One of the things, sometimes I think, fall short in is we make Ramadan only about food. and I think
Mhm.
and that's something. It's not about food. It's more than that. This is the month to achieve taqwa, and the reason I say that I preface that is because the thing I was about to say was maybe a bit too focused on the food and water side. Because one thing I started doing this year was right before Fajr Adhan goes off, I take like 2 pinches of Himalayan pink salt, and then I chug some water, and I'm like chugging water throughout my suhoor. Um, and my theory is that this is not tested. This is not I'm not It's not medical advice at all. But my understanding is salt will help your body retain water and hold water.
Hmm.
So having an extra bit of salt in my morning suhoor,
Yeah.
and then chugging water, my theory is it'll help me retain water for longer, and stay a bit more hydrated throughout the day.
Hmm.
And I will say I don't have this is not I haven't done any double blind control studies on this. I will say anecdotally it is working fine. It is working well. It is working well. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have any tips or tricks for our viewers about staying energized and staying hydrated throughout the day.
Yeah, that's what I heard too with the Himalayan salt. But watch out, I heard that if you don't have iodized salt in your diet, if you just completely switch out to Himalayan salt or pink
Mhm.
salt, sometimes you miss the iodine contents that are in iodized salt, which they're
What's
actually
iodine?
seeing. Uh, I know it's a necessary component for your bodily function, and that's why they include that in the iodized. Like it's like the regular table salt, right? That's iodized, but I don't want to go too far into that. Obviously, and we're gonna talk
Are you
about
giving
Ramadan.
medical advice here?
I'm giving unsolicited, yes, medical advice.
You need a disclaimer here, bro. That's what all the medical channels on YouTube do. They put a
Yeah,
disclaimer when video
but
starts.
yeah, but one thing I want to say about don't overfill during sahur. Um, make sure that you're not eating too much. Funny story, when I was younger and I just started fasting, of course when you're younger you make it about food, right? And you're like, oh man, I'm gonna be fasting all day, so I would stuff
Mhm.
myself during sahur, and I would feel absolutely atrocious when I woke up, like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or even earlier for school, and
Mhm.
I would just be in like a low state. So what I would say is don't overfill during sahur. Make sure to kind of eat moderately, drink water. I would say throughout the night if you can. Don't just stuff your face with water at the last second and expect that to, because you're probably going to discard that soon after, right? That's good, mashallah. Staying
This
hydrated.
guy drinks like 2 gallons a day, man.
All right, you gave me the water reminder.
Hey,
I try my best to finish this throughout. So I fill this up after at iftar, and most days I've been good with finishing this.
That's good.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
I don't mean to touch too much, but
exactly. You proved my point. I think that's probably helping you as well alongside your salt supplementation. So
soul
um,
supplementation, yes, alhamdulillah. Zaid, any words on any tips and tricks for our younger viewers, especially who are
yeah,
getting
of
into?
course. I mean, dude, I don't know if this is a tip or a trick, or I don't know if anyone should take this advice. But for me, dude, growing up, I used to eat like a lot for food, a lot, like two prate, like two, big like kind of dishes, like two prate,
yeah.
achar, chai, things like that. And then the older I get, like the less I can eat. I don't know, it's weird. Like when I
Mhm.
wake up for food, I just eat one thing, and I'm like, dude, I'm good.
All right,
I don't want to eat.
this is a bit controversial. I don't understand why people drink chai for suhoor and then go back to sleep.
I don't. Okay,
Let me
look.
explain it.
I,
Let me explain it. Let me
explain it.
explain it.
It's just been a tradition. I just do that. I'm thinking about like not
Let me
doing
tell you
anything.
right now. Let me tell you right now. Especially if you okay, here's the thing. Unless you regulated your caffeine levels before Ramadan and made sure to kind of wean off of coffee, like get off of chai slowly, you're gonna need at least 1 cup of chai in the day as a desi. And the best time to have that chai is, in fact, I think 2 cups of chai is fine too. Yeah. So I have a cup of chai at like seri time, or even 6 ounces of coffee. I keep the coffee minimum. But thing is, I
That's
drink it
crazy.
at the very end of all my food. Right. So it's like a cake. Imagine there's like in your stomach you have all the food, and then you have a layer of that. I don't know if that's medically like valid or not, but then I'm assuming that
I
by the
think
time I
so.
get up, by the time I get up for work, the caffeine will it'll still be in my bloodstream.
Okay,
That's my understanding.
it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I think I can respect that because if you consume your caffeine at the end, it sort of has
Mhm.
to pass through everything else you've already intaken, and that
Yeah,
has to digest before your body can, I guess, get to the chai. Um, I
yeah,
don't know. I still feel like it might. I still feel like that like couple hours of sleep you might get. Between your suhoor and after fajr and getting up for work or school, whatever, it's not the greatest quality of sleep, from my
yeah.
experience.
That's my question to you, Hodeifa. Are you sleeping? I'm sure you're probably getting probably an hour or two, right? But I know you wake up. You're very much an early bird. So are you actually like sleeping a while after suhoor?
So my goal is, and I haven't. I would say within the 5 6 days we've had, I've probably hit this half the time, half not the time, and half the time I haven't. It was after, so my area Tarawih ends around 8:30, eight
Oh
forty.
wow.
Well, I between
Really?
Um, well, for now, unless the time change goes in, and I haven't been praying 20. I've been praying between 8 and 12, and so then that allows me to get to bed by 9 ish. Obviously
Sure.
today we're recording our session, so that's not going to happen. But so I get to bed by 9 ish, and then if Sehri by me is like 4:50 ish, 4:55 ish, and it's slowly going down. So then if I go to sleep from like 9 to
Mhm.
like 4:15, that's a good 7 hours plus, almost of sleep. So and then I can easily stay up, and then go throughout my day. I think that's the best schedule so far for me. I try my best most days to stick with it, and then some days I haven't been good about it. But I do like consistency though. I do like consistency. And then unfortunately, I think actually I know we're going to talk about some of our Ramadan goals, and one of my goals this year was to um take advantage of the events in the community, become more involved there. And there's many qiyam programs and different programs that are in my local masajid and stuff. So I definitely, that was one of my goals this Ramadan. Um, and alhamdulillah, we have one qiyam program coming up this Saturday that I'll be heavily involved with, for the youth. And so that'll throw off my schedule a little bit for a day.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, it is what it is. I think Ramadan, you can't stick too much to a schedule in Ramadan. I think, just because it's these 30 days. It's like this one chance you're getting, and you might not get this chance again.
Yeah,
Allah
yeah.
Allah Subhanahu wa Taala knows best, and we don't
Mhm.
know. If you're gonna get this chance at this, it's like this pot of gold is just put in front of you, and it's like you're given unlimited access to extract from it. So that's why I think, sometimes if you're gonna go off your routine a little bit, I think that's fine.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
well, if you guys have any comments on that, feel free. And then I'm just wondering what, maybe you guys can talk about some of your goals this Ramadan.
For me, I think I think growing up, regarding Ramadan and regarding that, like you said, pot of gold, you have unlimited access to, and that time you have. I was also overwhelmed with the fact, like, okay, how do I divide my time properly? Do I just read Quran? Do I focus on memorization? Do I focus on reading Sirah? And not to say that obviously these are all acts of worship, and you do get hasanat from all of these. But I was talking to a few brothers before this Ramadan, and um, they're saying, Ramadan, a lot of the shuyukh would kind of stay away from, obviously they would focus because we know Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and they would focus heavily on the Quran, on studying the Quran, reading the Quran. And it's unfortunate because it's like for a lot of us, and me specifically, I never read the Quran from cover to cover, full translation. I read the Quran and it's not my native tongue, it's not my native language, so it's unfortunate we read something we don't understand. And I wanted to make it a goal to, let me read the Quran, let me focus on that, more so than maybe reading a Sirah book, or listening to some Sirah audios, or memorization. Let me actually sit down and study, and read the Quran cover to cover, and the meaning of it. Alhamdulillah, one tip I really really love. I use this app called Tartil. So as I'm reading the Mus'haf physically, I have the Tartil app open on the side, and what it does is it allows me to voice recognize my whatever ayat I'm on, and it shoots to it, and it gives me the English translation as I'm reading, uh, verse by verse. So after every verse I read, I'll look over to the app and I'll read the English translation, and I'll move accordingly. That way, that incentivized me to read the I mean, to really focus and read the Quran even more, because I was like, okay, now I know exactly what's what's being told, and then
Mhm.
what's being said, and I can follow it chronologically. I can follow it. It's like a story, it's like a plot, and the reminders in there just, it's doing it that way. It's different. I really really love it. That's something definitely I think I recommend to everyone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, one comment I'll say on this is, what was I listening to? I was listening to One Path Network. They had an episode
Hmm.
with recently with someone named Yusuf Abu Hisham. He's
Hmm.
this one guy in Britain. He gives talks and stuff, and you know, he was mentioning how within the Desi culture specifically, the culture of Quran is specific. It's focused on memorization. Yes or
Mhm.
no? Correct.
100%.
Yeah.
It's
Hun-
memorization, memorization, and it's competing in memorization.
Yeah.
And this is not to at all bash memorization, but it is to, you know, the Quran did not come down to be memorized. The Quran came down as a guidance, and as a guidance, and those words that you're memorizing mean something. And if the memorization is done without a without ever understanding it, I would say that's a shortcoming in our objective of engaging with the Quran. So I
Hmm.
appreciate Jazakallah khair, Brother Zahid, for this reminder about understanding what those words mean. And I think the tip with the app I think is great. One very minor thing I'll add on that is this is not specifically Ramadan specific, but there's this
Hmm.
app I mentioned it to I think maybe some brothers in recently, is this app called Quranic, and it's basically
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's almost like a, I want to say like a Duolingo for Quran. It's a sort of gamified, it sort of gamifies
Yeah.
learning some of the learning the Arabic words of the Quran. So I thought that was great. It's slowly chipping away at and very it's not like a full-time class or anything, so anyone can engage with this. It's just an app on the App Store, Quran and then IC Quranic. I would 100% recommend it to everyone. And
Hmm.
you'll be surprised at how fast you'll start to actually understand Arabic, and you'll be able to understand pick up words in Taraweeh that you're standing in all night, and I think it'll be very beneficial, inshallah.
Yeah.
Abdullah,
Yeah.
what are yours?
Like,
Give me some Ramadan goals or something.
yeah, yeah. So, I was talking to a few brothers about this, and I think sometimes we can be a little bit hard on ourselves, especially, let's say, for example, you start Ramadan maybe on the wrong foot. For example, I think in my case, I was kind of recovering from like an illness, right? So I was like talking to some people that some friends, and I was asking them, what do you think I should focus on, similar to Zayed's question, right? And they mentioned, don't worry about um oh, am I completing, like, don't worry about, like, um for example, oh, I'm not reading enough ayat. They said, as long as you're doing things consistently, you're doing things every day, you're picking a time frame, and you're sticking to it, right?
Hmm.
Like the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that he
So,
mentions, and I'm paraphrasing, where the small deeds that are consistent are the best deeds, right? um and that's something that I'm kind of taking to heart here, where sometimes we're busy with the workday, right? The workday sometimes goes even past iftar time, right? If you're busy with a project or a deadline or something. So it's all about having the right intention, number one. Not comparing yourself to others. I would say, I think competition in good deeds is really great, but also just making sure that you're being disciplined in yourself, and using as trying to be like positively engaging with yourself. Don't negatively engage with yourself. Be really positive about your
hmm.
situation, and focus on every day hitting those uh, keystones. Like, I need to read Quran every day. This is gonna happen no matter what. Or I need to go to at least 8 rakat tarawih every night. It's gonna happen, and just stick to that. Stick to that. Stick to that as you go. Yeah, and as far as the app that I'm using, if we're calling out apps, my go-to is Quran by Quran.com. I think that's the one I
Right.
use
Yeah.
most
No,
regularly.
dude. No, Abdullah, dude, I think that was the biggest thing for me growing up, just being overwhelmed. And and how much Quran can I read, right? And every day be like a sense of guilt, especially for those who aren't necessarily conditioned to, pre-Ramadan, post-Ramadan. If you're not already in like Quran classes, or already have that habit of reading Quran
Hmm.
every day, once you hit Ramadan, all of a sudden, right? Instead of getting overwhelmed, it's like, okay, let me make tangible targets I can go and achieve consistently. Whereas I would be fatigued, or like, okay, I feel a sense of guilt. Let me just sit down 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Let me just read as much Quran as I can every day. But that wasn't achievable because it's like, okay, I can't really measure a sense of like, okay, this benchmark.
Yeah.
Um, and the biggest thing is like, okay, bro, like people are finishing the Quran, in the month of Ramadan, all 30 juz. And for those who aren't conditioned to do that, and I'd say that's a lot of Muslims, and me personally, that's a pretty big task. I never really understood how to fully do that, especially with our other commitments and other obligations throughout the day. What I found was that if I just read literally like 5 pages after every salah, and I keep myself accountable,
Hmm.
that's a sure way to finish the whole Quran in the month of Ramadan. And let's just say I don't hit 5 pages, right? That's fine. If I can just read 1 page, 2 pages after every salah, I can check mark it, and that's it. Like, okay, I did it. I'm gonna read the translation along with that, and I found that to be very, very productive, at least for me. But I recommend that to
Yeah.
everyone. Make it like a set goal.
Very good. And that reminds me that I think one of the very important parts of Ramadan is this. I think this month we can take advantage for building habits. Different habits that
Hmm.
when we're thinking about, people when, especially in the Western culture, it's like um, when the New Year's comes along, it's like, oh, these are the goals, and then these are the
Yeah.
everything I'm gonna accomplish,
Yeah.
and then you burn out in the first couple days, right? And in some ways, Ramadan could be that where you set these goals and you burn out a little bit. But I think doing it more productively of if with any goal you're setting, you have to be it's called a SMART goal, right? That's the acronym for how you want to put be specific about your goals. Have it be measurable. I'm forgetting the other three what the letters stand for, but the goals.
Actionable,
Achievable.
Go ahead.
achievable,
Achievable.
actionable, right? Achievable, and then is it results or something?
Hard.
Never mind.
Something like
T's.
that.
Never mind.
It's all good.
Manageable.
But the biggest thing is you want to be specific about your goal.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
when it comes to goals that are specific to your deen, I think even that maybe don't have to be specific to specific to acts of worship. But these 30 days of discipline, of becoming more disciplined. I think it's key that we utilize these 30 days to do that, because we're on this heightened sense of iman. We're on this heightened sense of I want to please Allah. I want to be more productive or whatever. I think these 30 days are important for us to beforehand sit down. I know we're already a few days into it, but if we maybe falling short of that, I think we still got most of Ramadan still left. And that's a reminder for myself. Or let's take advantage of these whatever's left from Ramadan. Um,
I'd like to relay like a quick story. If so, there was a friend of mine, and he told me this story, and I think about this story often. And he mentioned that this was when he was younger, maybe end of high school, maybe early college, definitely around that time. And he said that there was a Ramadan that passed, and he was kind of getting closer to the deen, right? He was kind of, his heart was kind of edging closer to the deen, and he felt like a sense of like more of an urgency in his heart to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to actually do acts of worship. And he mentioned that the whole month of Ramadan went by that year, and he had not read one single ayat of Quran from the Musaf. The whole Ramadan passed. Yeah, he was at the last day of Ramadan, and Eid was announced. Eid was announced at the next day, but he, in his heart, he felt such an unease. He said, "How have this Ramadan passed, and I haven't even read one ayat of the Quran?" In fact, he told me like he started even tearing up, and he started crying. It was very emotional. And before that Maghrib, before the day ended, before Ramadan ended, he went to the Musaf and just started reading. He read one ayat, right? And now this brother actually he memorized almost a third of the Quran. And
Mashallah.
also I've several brothers have actually been to him for help with tajweed. And I mean, that just goes to show, like, that just one anecdote, obviously, but it's never too late. It's never too late to start. And I know among the Desi community also, like, you know, reading Quran and with the full tajweed can be somewhat of a blocker. And just to encourage those brothers, I just want to say that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives double the reward if you're trying to read the Quran and you're having issues, and you only get one reward if you're actually reading it perfectly. So this is an opportunity. I think everyone should take the time to learn how to actually pronounce each letter correctly. I think that was huge for me, and also learning the basics of tajweed, I think, was enormous, and that helped remove that blocker as well.
Jazakallah khair. You know, I want to move on. I want to ask you guys a question. Would you say Ramadan is more of a sprint or is it a marathon? I want to and give me your rationale and give me some commentary to back your claim up.
You want to start us off, Khalifa?
No, I'll go last. I want to see what you guys think first.
All right.
Who wants to go
Okay,
first?
no, I would say it's definitely marathon, not a sprint. Um, Not to say that, hey, for those brothers treating it as a sprint, yeah, you should maximize it as much as you can, and go as far as you can, as as fast as you can. But like we said, Ramadan is a month to build our habits, to build good habits. Because why? If we leave Ramadan and our habits aren't changed, or we don't, carry the habits that we make in Ramadan, then was Ramadan really worth it? Was it really, victorious for us? And that's the biggest measure, for our success, personally in Ramadan. And that's kind of my rationale with it. Like I said, I brought it up earlier. Look, for those who don't, struggle to read the Quran every day, just commit to yourself in Ramadan. A few pages after every salah, make a very tangible, very measurable goal. So that not only in Ramadan, you can continue that after Ramadan, because obviously you don't, Quran is just not just for Ramadan. It's after. It's for the rest of 365 days after that. So definitely it's marathon. Abdullah, do you agree or disagree with that?
So if you look at a sprint, right, versus a marathon, like what's the difference, right? And I don't run that much, but the sprints, you go as fast as
That's
you can. You put all your energy in, like a cheetah. You go as fast as you can, but you burn up quick. Yeah, you eventually burn up. You have to rest, right? Whereas cross country or marathon runners, man, they keep on going. They're going, but they're going at a more relaxed, more, I would say, steady pace. Yeah, I think that's a better way to put it. So I think, going back to the hadith that I mentioned earlier, where small and consistent is key, I think the marathon mentality is best. And let me know if I'm wrong, but there's a hadith that also mentions that one of the signs that the Ramadan is not accepted is that you don't change your habits. You don't take anything from that month to the rest of the months. Like, there's no, um, you only fast. Fasting is just a temporary thing where just you're hungry or thirsty for X amount of hours, and at the end of the day, you don't take anything that actually helps you outside of Ramadan. Um,
Yeah,
Mhm.
the only thing you took away from fasting was a hunger and thirst.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I appreciate you guys' answers. I will say I believe Ramadan is more of a sprint, and my reasoning for that
Like
is
that, like that.
I think life in general, your from the day you're born to the day you die, that can be described as a marathon. But this month
Okay.
of Ramadan, that you get 30 days a year, this is the time to go as hard as you can. And if you have to, I know, let me finish my thought first. If you have to, if you have to get a little bit of less sleep as than usual, if you have to, skip out on something that you might be skip out on your video games, whatever, which you should be doing. Also, hold on, is focus on fully exerting yourself as best as you can, um, to our ibadat, to your tilawat, to staying up at night and standing in qiyam layl, and giving in charity and everything that you should be doing in Ramadan. I think these 30 days you should be sprinting as hard as you can, and and sustaining a pace that's doable for you. So I'm kind of actually adjusting my answer now. It's not a 100-meter sprint, but it's maybe a 400-meter sprint, because
Mm,
it's not easy. In a 400-meter sprint, if you guys know anything about at track and field, or track, 400 meters generally described as one of the hardest races because you're trying to maintain that 100-meter pace for 4 times that. That's why it's described one of the most difficult races. I don't know if you guys ever tried running a 400. It's insane, very insane. It's not like a mile where you kind of go a little slower and pace yourself. 400 is you're sprinting all out. So in my humble opinion, I believe Ramadan should be described more of a sprint. I wanted to recall something. One time I was giving a short reminder talk at a iftar, and it was gonna be some younger guys there. So um, you guys might not find this funny at all, but I I gave an example. At the time, Mr. Beast was a big thing, and he
Oh,
would make
I
these
think I
videos.
know.
He would make these videos of
Fidget
like
spinner.
giving people his credit card or
Okay.
some amount of cash. And he's like, you have 1 minute to get everything you can from the store. Um, and there's some younger kids in the building, so that's why I gave that example. I mean, it's literally like you're getting this credit card of unlimited hasanat that you can acquire from, as long as you spend it correctly in these 30 days. Everything is multiplied by however many fold. And if you have that credit card for 1 minute, you're gonna be sprinting all around the
Mhm.
store, right, or to grab whatever you can. So I think that in that way, I believe Ramadan is more of a sprint rather than a marathon.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys have any comments on that. Disagree?
Yeah. So
Did I miss anyone?
yeah. So no, no. I think you made a great point, Hudefa. I think that's a very valid point that you made. Is that yeah, we have limited time here, and if not utilizing to our maximum capacity, that's a huge issue, right? Um, um, but I also want to like do the qualify the statement also and say that like for example, if you are doing that sprint, right, and then you take a very long pause to recover, let's say after Ramadan, you kind of take it easy for the next X amount of months or whatever. You're just kind of doing your thing. I think you need to have both mentality, right? That I need to take what I did in this Ramadan, take as much of it outside of Ramadan and continue with it, because I don't want to be that person on the day of judgment that, again, I don't want to use the term Ramadan Muslim, yeah, but the person that does all these great things, but then stops, as soon as that Eid is announced, and you can get back to your fun, get back to your day to day life, and get back to your activities, right? So I do agree with what you're saying, but I just want to qualify it with
Yeah,
my statement.
sure. And I was gonna say, I mean, you run this sprint, and you work so hard these 30 days, and that's what Eid is for, right? Eid's a celebration. Um, Eid's a time to celebrate after fasting these 30 days, right? So not to say, and not at all to imply that nothing should be carried on with after the month ends. But just to bring up that Eid is something to celebrate after you do this sprint. Let's move on to another question. I want to ask you guys, what does it truly mean to achieve taqwa? And I don't know if I have the answer to this. I don't know if I have a great answer to this. I want to make sure. I want to see if you guys do.
What's taqwa, Khalifa? Can you define taqwa?
Actually, this is not planned at all, but I'm gonna say this is taqwa. I just remember.
That's
Um,
that's good, man.
got
Yeah, no, please, therefore, yeah, you can
it.
define it, and then I think it's a back and forth. Yeah, if you want to
Yeah,
define it,
sure.
I think that'd be good. Yeah.
All right, so I'll open it up, inshallah. I believe taqwa means a couple. I don't know if there's an English word actually to describe it, and there's many words like this in Arabic that an English word does not. The language of English does not do justice. So many translations of the Quran, they will either say fear of Allah, having taqwa, having fear of Allah. Some will say having that closeness to Allah. Um, I think I've even read some translations that mention something along the lines of like the trust in Allah. Having I don't know if you can. I don't know if there's an English word that mixes all these concepts to define what the Arabic word of taqwa really means. And the reason, and just to preface this, the reason we're talking about this is because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He says in the Quran that fasting's been prescribed on you so that you may achieve taqwa. So that's why we're discussing this. What do
Mhm.
you what do you rather say?
I mean, dude, I think, I mean, all those definitions are correct. The fear of Allah, the trust of Allah, knowing that taking Ramadan, reflecting on the ayat, reflecting on the Quran, taking that time, you achieve that sense of, okay, everything belongs to Allah, and through clear, through all the, through every surah, through every, Taraweeh that we read, all the chapters we read, we see constant reminders from Allah, from Himself, and from the stories of the prophets, from the stories of the Sahaba, that the struggles that they went through, and Ramadan, right, is a focus, is a focus of us to read these stories, to read the Quran, to read the ayat of Allah, the words of Allah, so that we can learn, okay, what is the trust of Allah, what does that manifest to, right? And I think, pivoting that taqwa, knowing that Ramadan is a month of taqwa and a month of victory, and we kind of lose that, little narrative, especially kind of in the Western sense, in the modern world, we kind of see Ramadan as, uh, a self training, field, which it is 100%, but we also have to realize that Ramadan is also a month of victory, a month of taqwa, a month of knowing that victory comes from Allah. All actions come from Allah, and it's to Him, that's, to whom we return. So
And
that's kind of my thought process behind it. Don't know if you want to expand on that, but
can,
do you want to
It's
get
yeah,
into?
interesting.
can victory be attained without having taqwa?
No,
Absolutely not. All right.
no.
Any elaboration on that?
I would
No, that's
say,
it.
no. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, who who do we ask for victory from, right? That's first and foremost. But before I answer that question, I mean, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I want to answer your original question if that's okay. I'm going to jump back a little bit, right? Where you kind of asked what is taqwa, right? So I think there's a couple things I want to say here, but I think, do you guys feel when Ramadan starts, like, oh man, it's like the biggest breath of fresh air. Like, man, I'm so happy that, it's like almost like, and people that are looking from the outside, maybe from like a very secular, maybe capitalistic perspective, they don't understand, man. You're not eating or drinking for, X amount of hours, but and I can see your guys' faces. You guys are nodding, right? That naturally, it's like a prescription. Like if it feels like, we like, for me personally, I think Ramadan comes at the best time every year, and I appreciate Ramadan more as I get busy with the dunya, right? The dunya activities, for example, work, for family, all these things, business. You're trying to make ends meet. You're trying to. I think you actually appreciate it once you kind of get into more of that. You could say, quote unquote, adult life, but I would say it's also an overly capitalistic life at times, right? And I think the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dims if you're just focusing on, your your school, your work, your, trying to hit your deadlines for work, and I think a part of that is, Ramadan forces us to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, actually reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes strengthened, um I think of like a voltage, like, throughout the year, that voltage between the connection between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets lower and lower, that light bulb gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and then
Mhm.
Ramadan comes and the light bulb gets infused with so much, voltage and electricity, where you become bright, you become illuminated again. I think that, consciousness of Allah, I think taqwa means that you get that reconnection with Allah, number one, and number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on your forefront in every action you do, right? You think, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gonna be, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Please.
allow this, pleased with this, is it gonna be pleasing to Allah? And I think that's that reconnection that happens during this month.
So you're saying that as we just go throughout with our life, we we lose that understanding that Allah is always watching, that
Hmm.
Allah is aware of everything, He's controller of everything, He's a sustainer of all, and now when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says that this fasting has been prescribed for you so that you may achieve taqwa, this month is there so that that is restored, and it's just a it's a maybe it's maybe a natural phenomenon for every human to lose some of that throughout the year,
Mm.
because the dunya affects us all. However pious we as humans, we're not we're not like the Nabi. They're Masoom who have the message, right? We as humans, we're sinners, and the dunya affects us all. And this month, as you're saying, I think you described the feeling best. There's this a great feeling that you get when you get to witness another Ramadan. And we say alhamdulillah each time
Alhamdulillah.
we get to experience Ramadan, because this feeling and contentment and this God consciousness can be restored in our hearts. So I think Abdullah, that is very well said. Any anything else on that topic?
Can I pose a question to you guys?
Of course.
Okay, thanks. Um, why why were the stories of the previous prophets, revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Like, like for example, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, right? Uh, do you guys recall when that was revealed, or during the context of which that was revealed? Um, and
Um,
I don't want to get it wrong either. Maybe I'll Google it, but um,
I feel like I just listened to this recently. No,
When
I don't
was
know off
when
the top
was
of
it
my head.
revealed?
No, I don't know off the top of my head
uh,
when this
uh,
was
I,
revealed.
I do want to double check this. I don't want to be wrong about this, but these stories oftentimes are revealed during the Prophet Prophet's, you could say, lower points in lower points where maybe he was going through difficulty, the year of sorrow. And again, I'm not saying that Yusuf, the story of Yusuf, was revealed then, but I know that oftentimes these stories the prophets were given um, to show, to give the Muslims at the time, and a reminder to the Prophet ﷺ of the previous prophets and the difficulties that they went through with maybe giving the message to their people. And I think that's one of the perspectives we have to also, when we listen to the Quran, when we read the Quran, is why is this message being, why is Allah talking to me directly? And it's to fulfill, as an ummah, it's to fulfill the rights and responsibilities that Allah bestowed upon us, right? um, it's that motivation, it's that strength. And I think Ramadan, with our Tarawih prayers, with all of our dhikr, with the stories of the prophets that we're reading, that needs to be something that we think about. How can I carry this with me and have this
Mhm.
affect me, right? If you guys have any thoughts on that, I think.
I'll say one thing on that, and this also reminds me of sort of what Zahid was mentioning about this, this month of victory. Um, you're 100% correct in that the Quran speaks to each of us, and it's a means of guidance for us, and it's a means of guidance for mankind, and it's obliged on us to carry this to mankind. And this is truly how the Sahaba understood this, because yes, they were the companions of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And imagine, we all know this. We all know that Battle of Badr was fought in Ramadan. This is the first battle of
Mhm.
the Muslims, first major this ghazawat of the Muslims, right? Where you have 300 and I believe 13 people going against I think 1,000 something. So it's like basically a 1 in 3 outnumber, right? They didn't say, "Oh, you know, I have to study for this exam, so I might not fast," or I have to I have this big basketball game or something, and I can't fast or something. These are minor things that sometimes we were tested with, right, in our young age, and even sometimes now. They had a battle. I think if you I've never visited the Valley of Badr, but from Medina to Valley of Badr, I think it's many hours trek. Um, Imagine doing this in the desert heat
So-
while fasting, and then going out there to fight a battle.
Mhm.
This should serve as
Yeah.
a crazy reminder to us that we as humans, first of all, number one, we our bodies have the capability of doing this. Number one, and number two, when something is done for the sake of Allah, and you give support to Allah, and you give support to His Deen, He will provide His support to you, and you have to take that first step on on giving victory to Allah. That's what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says. "Oh, you give victory to Allah, and He gives victory to you." So
Mhm.
you give your support to Allah, and He gives your support to He gives His support to us. So, and this is what the Sahaba understood, and that's how they attain that, that the day of Furqan, right? The day of criterion. This was the day that the truth was set above falsehood. Um, so
Mhm.
this was the mission of the Quran that we need to understand, and we need to carry. And I think this all relates to having taqwa and having that God consciousness in our hearts. Um, I hope I got to all parts of your question, Abdullah.
No, that was mashallah. Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah, is that any comments on that? Otherwise, I want to move on to one more topic, inshallah.
We can move on, but just a quick comment. I mean, like, I think you put it perfectly, but like we should compare ourselves to the Sahaba. We should compare ourselves to the Prophet. And number one, before I get to like comment, two comments. But you
wait,
said
wait,
one.
hold on. You said compare yourself to the Prophet? Uh,
No, we should take the Prophet. I'm sorry, we should take the Prophet
oh,
as an example. We should take the
okay,
as an example.
perfect.
Abdullah, like you were saying, when we read the Quran in the month of Ramadan, I think we should also put our shift our mindset to being the one addressed specifically, like how Rasulullah was addressed, so that the ayat that were revealed to him, we take it as if it's being revealed to us. You're kind of having that mindset shift. And to go from that, to go to my second comment, my second point, Hudayfa, you mentioned something quite beautiful. You said that the Sahaba, the best of generations, were able to push their physical, limitations, to push their physical bodies to that extent, like they demonstrated in the Battle of Badr, in all the Ghazawat, and that can only be unlocked, right? That superpower, right? I guess I'll coin it, can only be unlocked with achieving that taqwa, with achieving that God consciousness, with that fear of Allah, knowing that our strength comes from Him and Him alone, and victory comes from Him and Him alone, and that if we're mindful of Him and if our actions please Him, there's nothing to be worried about, whether that be physical limitations, whether it be realistic, um, uh, you know, uh, quote unquote, we deem something to be a realistic limitation, something we can achieve. And I think that's one of the main takeaways, at least from the month of Ramadan, in achieving that God consciousness. This can be done. It has been done before, and it will be done again. And as Muslims living into 2025, we have to take that point. We have to move forward with that point.
Well said. Well said. Jazakallah khair. Um, I'm just keeping an eye on time. I wanna, say bring up one more topic, and I'll start off with a question, and maybe this will lead into it. Do you guys think that we um have too many iftar parties?
Where's the where's the agree button that I can just thumbs up?
Hey, what's
Uh,
what's wrong with okay, let me push back. What's wrong
so
with inviting people and feeding them iftar, feeding them
so
their dates to break their fast? There's a lot of reward in that.
I didn't say there's anything wrong with that. I just asked a question, dude.
no no. Look, I think I think the intention is 100% in the right place, right? Feeding your brothers and sisters, your friends, calling them together and really connecting with the brothers that maybe you haven't seen in a long time. And um again, I think the intention is there. I think look, I do enjoy having breaking bread with brothers, breaking bread with friends 100%, discussing, catching up, right? And I think that's a huge positive. I would say when I was younger, I enjoyed those connections a lot more. But the thing is, like we discussed earlier, like we want to maximize this month, right? So I think it's a balance, right? Uh, if you're constantly going to iftar parties and you're not focusing, you're not doing introspective work on yourself, you're not doing like you're not doing tadabbur and just thinking about how can I please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're just constantly meeting people. I think like everything in moderation, like there's two extremes to this, right? And I think like Khalifa mentioned earlier, we want to maximize here. We don't want to be in a situation where we regret not doing as much as we could. So I think that's how I look at it.
Okay, I think that's a pretty nuanced position. Fair enough. Sad, any
Diplomatic,
thoughts?
maybe.
Um, I'm pretty much in line with what Abdullah says. Nothing inherently wrong about iftar parties, but I think growing up, iftar parties was like the main point of Ramadan. Like, oh, dude, Ramadan. Like as a
Yeah.
kid, I was like, Ramadan happened. Okay, boom, we got like iftar parties lined up. I want to meet my friends. I want to meet my homies. This is gonna be fun. Um, but now your perspective changes. You know, when you grow up, you're an adult now because it's like, okay, Ramadan isn't just to have fun. And as a kid, I didn't want to say this comment before I finish my point. As a kid, you look towards more to Eid than you do as to Ramadan, right? You're more excited for Eid. Oh, Eid, the Eid party,
Mhm.
Eid. You're gonna meet everyone. It's gonna be fun to party.
You're
Whereas,
needy.
Eid, yeah. On top of that, but as you grow older, you realize what
You're gonna
Ramadan
start
is,
giving
right?
the ED when you get older. No, sorry.
Oh my
Continue.
god. uh, then you're like, okay, you know, actually, I'm more excited for Ramadan. I'm excited for the month to happen because why? This is my training ground. This is my space to really build myself up. Not to say that Eid is you shouldn't be looking forward to Eid, and of course not. Look forward to that and have fun at Eid, and please enjoy it. But that perspective changes. The mind shifts a little bit.
Yeah. Here's why I brought this question up. And I was listening to um, Imam Tom Fahini
Hmm.
on Thinking Muslim podcast with Muhammad Jalal, right? And he was making this point that Ramadan, at its nature, at its core, is a rejection of capitalism.
Yeah.
And why I bring capitalism, and there's like, people are probably thinking, why are you bringing the economic system of a country into a conversation about Ramadan, right? Look, and you guys can disagree with me. The way A way of life that you live under will affect
Hmm.
your thoughts, your emotions, and just generally what you do. Correct? And it's no surprise to anyone. We live in a capitalistic world. So when we have these iftar parties, I've, maybe I'm victim to this. Our objective becomes, I want to hold this gathering. Sometimes, I'm not saying for everyone. And I think maybe it's not 100%, this, 100% that, but to some extent it becomes, I want to hold this party. I want to invite everyone. I want to have fun. I want to make sure I have the best food here. I want to make sure I decorate my house here. I'm going to
Mhm.
take pictures and post about this, and it's going to be this nice look, nice aesthetic to my iftar party. And everyone does this, and I even get a hint that people sort of compete to who's going to have that best iftar party.
Mhm.
This is a completely capitalistic way of thinking. I want to have again. People have that. I want to have that nice car. I want to be. I want to. You look over. It's like what's the saying? Like keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Mhm.
You're trying to always compete with that next person, with your neighbor, and trying to get that best house, best car. And now to this extent, I want to have that best iftar party. Um, Look, if yes, there's so much merit and virtue in being a fasting person, and that should be the only, in my opinion, should be that only intention in having a gathering for iftar.
Mhm.
That you get your intention is there's just so much reward in help in providing food to someone who's fasting to break their fast. That should be that intention. And if someone who has that Islamic worldview rather than that capitalistic worldview, that's what's going to be at that forefront.
Mhm.
So to my original question was if we're having too many iftar parties. I would say no. I think you should have these iftar gatherings. I don't like the word
Mhm.
party, but
Mhm.
that intention should be I want to attain this pleasure of Allah. I want to attain this reward in this month that every action is multiplied of helping of breaking of offering food to someone to break their fast rather than um this 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 mesmerized vision of this beautiful iftar party I want to hold just so people
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
praise me. Astaghfirullah, I mean, a'udhu billah, right? That's not the intention, and
Mhm.
that's the only reason I bring this up. And I think it was a great. I thought it was a great episode on the Thinking Muslim podcast, and that's a channel I do
Mhm.
recommend our viewers also engage with. And I'll try to link that. I'll try to remember to link that video as well. I think it's a great episode on how Ramadan at its core is a rejection of
Mhm.
this capitalistic worldview and this way of life.
Yeah.
Abdullah, you think about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, like, a couple years ago, like, or I think this year, like, some stores, like name brand stores, Walmart or other stores, are actually selling Ramadan decor, right? And at first I was like, oh, okay, that's, they're, the Muslims are, I
Be
guess,
inclusive.
being inclusive. Yeah, it's like an inclusive thing. But the more I thought of it, I was thinking, like, they're finding a way to commodify and to commercialize, um, our the sacred month of Ramadan, right? Which, I'm still in that gray area about it. I think that naturally, if there's people are buying something, people are going to be producing it, right? If people are buying something, people are going to be producing it, right? So I think it's um, uh, I think what you mentioned, right? Like the idea that we don't just want to be, like a capitalistic cog within this capitalistic system. Islam is actually an antithesis to capitalism entirely. It is something that is completely against. Look, I'll be honest with you. When I started working, having to work and justify that, hey, I gotta take time off, or uh, you know, can I leave a little bit early? I mean, in Muslim countries, I think it's a lot more chill, from what I heard. Where in Ramadan you can take time off early and you can leave, and there's different hours, right? But I think we're kind of worked to the bone in this system, right? And it doesn't give time for you to ponder, to think, to connect with Allah, right? And um, I'm kind of rethinking the whole thing of the whole, decorations and this and that. I know there's difference of opinion here, but I think we need to be smart about how we approach this, going
Look,
forward.
look, I want to push back. I'm not to say that, look, decorating your house or wanting to, pizzazz, for the month of Ramadan, to, enjoy a little bit of like celebration, happiness. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But but what I'll say is, I think, Atifa, you brought this up. It's We want to change our intention of our actions, right? We want to change the fact that, hey, are we doing that to keep up with the Joneses? Are we doing that to show off, right? Or number two, are we doing, what are our actions, you know their intention, is it to please Allah, right? And do I want to become closer to Allah? And not to say that, these, trivial things of, decoration or throwing iftar gatherings and things like that, and feeding people, it's not like that. But if the soul, the crux of the issue, the crux of the matter here is, we just need to, bring our thought process back, right? Step back a little bit and look. We need to, every action we do needs to please Allah, needs to go in the direction of pleasing Allah. That's it. That's it. And with that, I mean, you can, move forward. But uh like you said, our kind of modern paradigm, living in America, living in, 2025, and seeing Ramadan now, Abdullah, you mentioned, like, as a, turning into a commercial thing, you seeing it turning into a commercial thing, a commodity, blah blah blah. um we 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 want to H dog getting tired, Olivia getting tired. We'll wrap this up
Oh,
after this.
oh wait, bro.
Anyway, it's
It's okay.
bedtime.
No,
I'm
no.
gonna go sleep.
We'll let it out
But
to
look,
Jan. Don't worry.
especially now in this day and age, we need to take a step back, and we need to really fit Islam. We gotta change the reality to fit Islam, not change Islam to fit the reality, right? We think of iftar parties as something that we, hey, keeping up with this or showing off, blah blah blah. No, that's not the point. We gotta change the reality to fit Islam. We gotta bring back that intention of pleasing Allah in everything we do, and with that, will everything be straightened?
I think you hit the nail on the head, at the end. Like, it's about your intention, at the end of the day. Why are you doing what you're doing? Like, take a pause, take a step back. Why are you doing what you're doing? Again, if it's just for the sake of, I want to make Ramadan, something where my family will actually, it could be a vehicle for, like, the material could be a vehicle for actually getting closer to, um the feeling of Ramadan. And in terms of, if I have a good environment around me, if I have a beautified environment around me, that might encourage the kids. Let's say you have kids in your family, to to engage with the Quran, to engage with, if you have a nice musalla area in your house, for example, right? You have a beautiful carpet, you have a lights, you have the Quran sitting there. It might encourage your kids to go there and actually want to engage with the Quran, right? So it's about your intention at the end of the day as well, right? I don't want to bash on anyone, but I think that's what we have to link it back to. What is our intention? And we have to not be caught in um this system that it just wants us to satisfy our nafs. What does our nafs want? Let me satisfy it. What does our nafs want? Let me satisfy it. I think that's where we have to, that's where Ramadan is important, right? Where, hey, we take a hold of our nafs. Hey, is this something that's pleasing to Allah? If so, okay, go for it. If it's something that is not, then we have to think thrice about that, right?
Yeah. I think that's a great point at the end where Ramadan is literally about suppressing one of the most basic human desires of food and water.
Hmm.
It's the suppression of that very basic desire. And as you're saying, the way of life that we live under, it's all about, I have this desire, I gotta please it right now. Correct?
Hmm.
So well said. I want to make one last point, inshallah, and I hope forgive me for holding you guys too long. Um, as Zaida was speaking about, this commercialization and this commodification of Ramadan and everything. I don't know if you guys noticed last couple of years, there's this thing called Suhoor Fest. Right? And it's not a hate on
We need
Suhoor
one
Fest.
more hour of the for part two.
Let's run it.
Maybe I don't know. I just woke up. I think. No,
You got excited.
I got excited. Now, someone
What
sent
are
me
our
this
thoughts,
video.
boys? No.
Someone sent me this video of some guy saying how Suhoor Fest is like such a great way to make money. It's like you charge these is so some creator was just talking about. He's like you charge each vendor like this much money, and then you charge a ticket fees. Like you can make like $10,000, whatever, $20,000 a night. I was like thinking, dude, um, and like I said, the way of life that we live under affects us.
Hmm.
Ramadan was never about um,
Yeah. Hmm.
making a ton of money for your business or like the objective of Ramadan shouldn't be um, it shouldn't be looked at as a business opportunity for my business. It should be
Hmm.
looked at a business opportunity for like your book of deeds, right? Like that's the business opportunity.
Hmm.
Um, so so I think
W.
I think, like we said already, the way it does affect us, and I'm not taking a stance on if we should attend such Sahur fast or not. Um, it's I've heard funny stories about Sahur fest. I've heard sometimes fights go on and whatnot. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, you guys can bring it up. Otherwise, we can inshallah bring this to a close.
Might need a part two on Sewerfest, but what I will say is that, yeah, I agree with you. It's like uh, we let this mindset of we gotta constantly hustle, make more, creep into you know things that are sacred, things that are that that have nothing to do with making money, right? Like and that's something that it's a reminder to myself as well, is that we can't just keep on being focused on lining the pockets, because in fact that's kind of going down a slippery slope. If like the history of like the Christians and whatnot, of making more, and the idea of your work ethic, your capitalistic work ethic, how much you make for your boss, and all these things are linked to your deeds. I mean, I can go more into that. Obviously, I don't want to go too far into that, but I think that's a really important call out that you're making, Hudayfa. We need to be, we can't, we need to put our people of knowledge, our scholars, in regard, and not our businessmen and our capitalists and our corporate, you know, uh, corporate, let's say, uncles. And again, they did a lot. They do a lot of good for the community, but we need to make sure that we're constantly thinking about how to please Allah, right? First and foremost.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you mean by history of Christians? I guess I missed it.
So yeah. So if you know about the corruption in the church, and even in modern day churches, if you look at mega
Yeah.
churches, they collect a lot of money, to the point where some of these pastors, and again, may Allah SWT protect the Muslim ummah from ever going near this, but these mega pastors are going on private jets left and right, and they're saying God is telling them to buy the next, you know, $1 million jet, several $1 million jet, and do all these things, and they're just asking money from the poor.
Abdullah, even before that, the downfall of Christianity when before the split was the churches would sell tickets to paradise,
Sell tickets
and
to
it would
paradise. Yeah.
will tell their ummah, will tell their people, hey, you buy this, give me money and I'll ensure you your path to paradise.
Yeah.
So
They'll get a piece of paper. I saw a video where a guy that was like in Africa, this Christian said, "How much money?" There's a pastor. He said, "How much money do you have in your bank account?" And he says, "I only have like 2,000." He's like, "Give it for the church." He's like, It'll be replaced." Or or like not give it to church, even like let me like give it to me, and it'll be in a good place. Like this guy has nothing to his name, and you're taking all of his remaining money. Like again, that's like an extreme example, but may Allah protect us from.
uh,
One last point I'll make on this. Sorry, I keep saying last point is you know, secularism was a. I heard this recently. Secularism was a rational response to an irrational Christianity.
yeah,
Yeah,
Secularism, but
yeah.
Islam, on the other hand, is based on rationality. It's based
Yep.
on
Wow.
a true fundamental basis. So you can't have that, which is why secularism and Islam completely contradict. Christianity, the Christian world needed this because it was completely irrational. Your fundamental creed is God is a man and there's three in one, and you can
Hmm.
have three and God and the Father, right? I mean, come on, how do you expect a billion people? I mean, how do you expect the world to believe this? Correct?
Hmm.
And people didn't believe this, which is why you had this movement of no, that the church needs to be separate from our life's affairs.
Yeah.
However, this doesn't work with Islam, which is why
this doesn't work
today,
with our fitrah.
I mean, correct, right? This is Islam relies on number one, it's based on rationality. It aligns with our fitrah, which, and which the point I was gonna make was, I'm gonna say they in quotations, which is why they had to use force to destroy Islam as a way of life. Correct.
Hmm.
And the last thing I'll say is, with this, sometimes I can be a bit of negative Nancy, but remember, Ramadan is a month of victory. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
us to, I want
Hmm.
us to take away that Ramadan is the month of victory for number one, ourselves, and number two, for the ummah. And if we go with this mentality of, this is the month that the Muslims won the Battle of Badr. This is the month that Makkah was opened. This is the month, many, I believe, a battle of Ain Jalut. The battle that allowed the Muslims to oppose the Mongols. Correct.
Hmm.
Battle of Ain Jalut. Many important events happened in this month, and
Hmm.
and we need to realize that, Allah knows best, but maybe that next victory for the Muslims may come in another Ramadan.
Hmm.
So I want us to realize that,
Hmm.
you know um, number one, victory inshallah is near, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if we support His Deen, He will support us. Any last words, brothers, and then we can
La-
inshallah bring this to a close.
last words. I just wanted to mention. I know that um, I just wanted to mention Gaza in this current situation that we're seeing, and Subhanallah, after what happened in the last couple of years, seeing the Muslims, you know, uh, and again, this is where I say it comes back to your niyyah, and this is like they made a the pictures that are coming out of Gaza are amazing. The sabran jamil that the people of Gaza, people of Palestine, people of Sham have. They're eating. They have ornate the tables with all the food lined up, and the communities coming together to eat. And they have like the Ramadan lights also on the street, and it's lit up among a sea of rubble and destroyed buildings. And we see these stark images, but their spirit is still high. Their spirit is still connected to Allah, right? They're still connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hope of Allah, right? And we should take those images and be inspired by them and say, inshallah, we are among those that can aid them and aid the rest of the ummah, right? And the this is just another example of how we can kind of gain that inspiration and motivation this Ramadan. Uh,
Well, you know, the question I always ask when I see a picture, when I saw those pictures recently, is like, am I deserving of, that
Mhm.
inshallah the reward these people will get in the afterlife is unimaginable, right?
Mhm.
And the question to ask is, are we, sitting in our comfort here, deserving
Mhm.
of that same
Mhm.
reward in the hereafter? And if not, and that's a question for each of us to ask ourselves and answer to ourselves. And if not, I mean, we got to realize we got to do much more. We got to do much more. And um, I think with that being said, Zahid, any last words? Otherwise, we can chop this up.
Let's wrap this up.
All right. Jazakallah khair, brothers, for joining. I appreciate you, Brother Abdullah, Brother Zahid, and for our viewers joining us on this Ramadan special. With that being said, wa akhiru da'wan, and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakumullah khairun. Assalamu
Okay.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
Wa
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.